We're ready to begin setting the maxillary teeth, and as you can see, I have this cast off the articulator just to show that I've removed the wax occlusion rims, and then I've secured the record base to the maxillary cast with a little light bead of wax along each side just to help secure it while we begin to set these teeth. So we'll go ahead and put both the mandibular and maxillary cast back on the articulator. Again, our guidance for positioning the mandibular teeth are pretty much all in place because we have positioned the mandibular teeth, and that they necessarily guide the position of the maxillary teeth. So really the only trick is attempting to get the lingual cusp in contact with the central groove, and also tipping the cusp so that when we view it from this position, that you can see the tip of the lingual cusp in contact with the lower teeth and the buccal cusp slightly raised. Now I don't know what you recall, but this is a significant amount of horizontal overjet, and because of that, positioning the teeth in the maxillary arch may be a little tricky. I'm going to use all the maxillary teeth in an attempt to create an aesthetic appearance, yet all the teeth may not be in contact, i.e. the first premolars may not be in contact with the mandibular denture, but they'll just be positioned for the aesthetic. So I'm going to see how that works out, and lots of times it's trial and error, particularly in these circumstances where we have a significant difference in the jaw position. So again, no magic. I'm going to use probably all the maxillary denture teeth. Some people like to count and see whether they got all the teeth they thought they should get. I usually don't worry too much about that, but I have had people ask me why their old denture had X number of teeth and this new one doesn't. So you get asked peculiar questions from time to time. I guess they're relevant questions. So I'm going to guesstimate the position of that tooth. I can almost make contact. As a matter of fact, if I just press the tooth lingually and check again, I'm almost there. So this may take a little manipulation. Again, we're trying really to add this tooth not necessarily for function, but for aesthetics, to make the transition to the posterior. I'm going to again need to add a little wax. I thought I put a big enough root on there, but I may need to just go ahead and remove it and add a little additional wax. So again, it's just a process of trial and error. I think that adding the wax to the denture tooth in this method versus trying to cut windows out of the record base and place the teeth that way, I think you have a little bit better control of positioning the tooth a little bit more rapidly. So I'm giving this premolar a pretty generous root because I have quite a bit of restorative space to occupy. Not always the case, but in this particular situation that is the case. So again, we're going to see if we can get this tooth in occlusion with the mandibular arch. And without setting it too far lingually, it looks like if I continue to try to get this tooth to make contact, that it'll be set so far lingually that the aesthetics will be poor. So what I think I'm going to do is try to get it positioned vertically so that it blends into the occlusal scheme and makes that transition from anterior to posterior. So we'll start to kind of move the tooth into position and then see how it appears from the anterior view, because lots of times from a aesthetic standpoint, it isn't the anterior 6, it's the anterior 8, sometimes the anterior 10, and if people have a smile from ear to ear, you may see even the first molar, and that's not uncommon. So in this denture arrangement, we don't try to make the appearance, that transition from the anterior to the posterior tooth, look as seamless as possible, because many times one of the giveaways for the denture is that sort of step that you see between the canine and the premolar that pretty much lets everybody know that these are artificial teeth. So I don't know whether in this video I'll be able to capture that or not. We'll see what we can do here with moving this around a little bit. Again, I'm not trying to finalize the wax up by any stretch of the imagination. I'm just trying to get the tooth secured in place with some additional wax. So I think you can see that we've got the first premolar in place. It's kind of set relatively far lingually, but from an anterior aspect I think it looks relatively reasonable, so we're going to go with that for right at the moment and then see how that works. And if I'm not happy with that, I'll just remove it or reposition it. So we're going to go using a little bit of the bow cap and a little bit of wax available for the remainder of the teeth to be set. And as you can see, we're in just a little bit lingual, so I may just pull that out a little further after I see the position of the second premolar. Let's see what happens with this. Again, I need to put pretty significant wax tails on these because I have a lot of restorative space between mandibular teeth and the residual ridge. So same idea, soften the wax, make sure it's soft enough that you can manipulate the tooth and move it around. It's just again kind of a trial and error. All the waxes melt at different melting points and all of them have different characteristics. This particular wax is very sticky, which for setting the teeth I kind of like. Okay, so my initial closing shows that we can start to pick up contact with this maxillary premolar with the mandibular teeth. I'm going to move it just a little bit more lingually. And okay, so what I'm doing now, which you can't see, is you can see I have the tooth position, but for lingualized occlusion I need to be able to see the lingual cusp. So I'm going to tip this buccal cusp up a little bit and see if I also can maintain the position of the lingual cusp. This is where it sometimes gets to be a little bit tricky, but it can be done. So hopefully you can see in this video how I position the first premolar, second premolar, and how the second premolar is starting to come into contact. Its lingual cusp in contact with the central groove, and the buccal cusp tilted up slightly. I'll go ahead and take it. So we've now got the first premolar and the second premolar placed. There's quite a bit of wax that I placed previously, so I'm just going to go ahead and place this first molar, and if I need to add a little wax I will, but I think we might be in good shape. Again, just close the articulator, let the tooth move into position, and then tweak it as you need to. Probably need just a little bit more wax, but we're getting pretty close. Just So you can't see what I'm doing right at the moment. The concept remains the same. That we're going to put the lingual cusp in contact, and the buccal cusp will be tipped up a little bit. And you should be able to see the lingual cusp in contact and the buccal cusp not in contact. I'm going to make a little wax addition here, and then hopefully we'll be able to see what I've done in positioning the first molar. Again, as you do make these additions of wax, and as the wax cools, it tends to contract and pull the tooth away from the position you just put it in. So the trick, or I should say the suggestion, is if you make wax additions, make them in small increments and let them cool, and this will reduce the amount of contraction by reducing the volume of material that you've got heated up. So it's a little finessing game. Now, in the process of doing this, the second premolar rotated a little bit, and I'll probably do it again. So we'll take a look and see what's happening with this. Probably both the molar and the second premolar will need to be repositioned lingually just a bit more. And again, I might not have quite enough wax underneath this tooth. But you can see some of the issues that start to occur as the wax cools and the tooth lifts off the position you had before. They rotate a little bit. So again, you need to be patient, make adjustments in small increments, and avoid heating the wax up excessively, because again, it'll just shrink toward that contracting, cooling material. So really what I'm doing right now, while the wax is somewhat soft, I'm just repositioning the tooth without heating it. I'm just manipulating it with my fingers. And we just had the lower cast come off. Not a big deal, but we're going to have to reattach it. This is what's so handy about making sure that you have indexed the cast just in case this happens. So I'm going to fix this, and then we'll go ahead and proceed. So just by manipulating the wax with my fingers as it was cooling, I've repositioned both the premolar and the molar, and now we'll see if we are in good shape in terms of making the occlusal contact we want. And hopefully you should be able to see that again. We now have the lingual cusp of the premolar in contact with the central groove, and we also have the lingual cusp of the first molar in contact, and just that slight tilting upward or gingival tilt of the buccal cusp, so that from this view you should be able to see the lingual cusp in contact with the mandibular denture tooth. So go ahead and set the next one, then we'll kind of take a still photo so we get a better idea what that looks like. Do the other side the same way, and we'll be done as far as the positioning of the teeth. And then just need to finalize the wax up for the wax try-in, or tentative tooth arrangement, or whatever term you want to use. Some people call it the trial denture. Anyway, we'll be ready for that appointment. So we'll go ahead and set this last tooth. Same concept. This one's got a big root on it, and we've got a lot of space. And I gotta reheat this one up because the wax hardened while I was showing you the tooth positioning of the other teeth. Just press it into place, approximating where I think the tooth is going to end up. And we'll go ahead and close and see what we get. Okay, we need to move it to the buccal. And also move the first premolar a little bit to the buccal. Now in this position I'm in right now, I don't have a lot of wax available, so I'm going to, on the facial saw, before I open this up again, I'm going to add some wax to the buccal leads. And that'll be twofold. Number one, just to better secure the teeth, and also as the wax cools, it's going to tend to want to draw that buccal cusp up, and the buccal cusp may ultimately end up in a better position just because of that contraction of the wax. So I'm making a little addition here. I'm going to have to flip it around so I can see it. But see if this little addition doesn't do the trick. Again, I'm kind of helping to secure the tooth. I'm not really trying to finalize the wax, if that's another step in itself. But probably from this view you can see how we've got some overjet. The horizontal overjet in the interior is unbelievably significant, but let's see if I flip this thing over, and I think we can get the second molar in a little bit better position. Can't see the lingual cusp particularly well, so we can do the same thing we did before and just tip it up a little bit. So here we are with maxillary teeth arranged. Again, I used all of them basically to fill the space for the aesthetics of it, and we'll do the same thing on the opposite side. Well, I've completed the arrangement of the opposite side of the arch, and again, just as review, we're using a lingualized occlusal scheme, not imbalanced. And what does that mean? Well, we're using a 0-degree tooth in the lower arch, set on a flat plane, and then the maxillary teeth are 33-degree teeth, and the lingual cusp has been put in contact with the central groove of the mandibular tooth, and then the buccal cusp raised slightly, so that from this view you should be able to see the lingual cusp in contact with the lower tooth and the buccal cusp slightly raised. This arrangement probably will need to be perfected a little bit more, because once we go ahead and complete the final wax up, again we're going to have the issue of the wax being heated and cooling and contracting on cooling. So again, these teeth may move a little bit, so we may need to refine that arrangement as we go along. But this is basically the fundamental approach. Again, the key to the entire arrangement begins with the central incisors 8 and 9, where that was established in the occlusion rim, not only where the incisal edge is anteriorly and posteriorly, but where the incisal edge is in the vertical dimension, and again determining the midline. And as you've seen as I've gone through this arrangement, everything's really been guided by those two teeth, and then ultimately we are relying on the anatomy of the jaw to establish the posterior occlusal plane, going from the tip of the canine back to 1/2 to 2/3 the height of the retromolar pad. So I'll go ahead and make a few more still pictures, and hopefully this will assist you in the future when you either do a tooth arrangement yourself, or you're guiding your lab technician on how you want teeth arranged. The one constant in this, whether you're doing a balanced occlusal scheme or non-balanced, whether you're using a cusp tooth, semi-anatomic or anatomic tooth, it makes no difference. The fundamentals are the same with respect to arrangement. The only difference that occurs is whether there's going to be a compensating curve put in that posterior occlusal plane, and whether you're going to have some type of vertical overjet, so that as the patient's jaw moves forward, all the teeth remain in contact. Again, this intent of this occlusal scheme is merely to have bilateral simultaneous contact in the centric relation position. So that's that for today.